We learned this weekend that a father-son bonding session in a Matakana school has been cancelled after one female single parent insisted that she should be able to attend as well. We're always being told that dads need to be more involved in their kids' educations, particularly their sons. So is this a case of a missed opportunity? Does it raise deeper issues about the feminisation of our schools and our society? Our guest on the programme today is from The Parenting Place, which has long campaigned for fathers to be real dads. He's John Cowan. John, thank you so much for sparing time for us today. It's quite a row has blown up about the cancellation of this Brothers in Arms bonding session, it was called. How important is something like that?
It sounds like the type of situation where another hour of talking together would have probably sorted it out to some type of win-win situation. I think it's great that a school would take on the idea of helping their parents relate better with their children, and it sounded like they were doing programs for both mums and dads. I think that's excellent that schools, shoulder that responsibility. It's great.
Is it important in terms of boys having their dads there?
I think as an encouragement to dads, it's fantastic. I mean, I think most dads would readily acknowledge that mums tend to have a slightly better repertoire of automatic responses to their children. We're perhaps a little bit slower on the uptake in some areas, and when we're parenting at our best, it is slightly different from the way mums parent, and so to have that acknowledged and encouraged, I think is a great thing. And normally people would take encouraging dads as not necessarily meaning discouraging mums, and it's a bit sad that that's the take that some people have taken from this, and so good on them. I think it was a good idea.
It is, as you say, a shame that it then the whole thing was cancelled because one lady decided that she wanted to be there.
As far as we know.
As far as we know. Are men inhibited when women are there? That's one of the arguments, is that men wouldn't have been able to...
My impression is that we tend to behave ourselves better when women are present.
So we are inhibited then?
I don't know. There's a different dynamic, and I can't imagine many situations where it would necessarily be a negative impact. I mean, we have fathers' breakfasts, and we advertise it for dads, and occasionally some women have wanted to come along, and they have. We don't say you're not allowed to come, and they usually just choose to sit towards the back, and they enjoy it, and some have actually left before it's over when they realise that it's not just an anti-woman club getting together to bag women. But there is a different dynamic when men are with a group, and I've spoken to both groups of women and groups of men, and men, there is a different bonhomie, there's a different dynamic, as I'm sure that there are when women get together and there's no men.
I think it is a case, though, isn't it, that women will share very openly about how they feel about things, about how things are going.
Yes.
Whereas men, if they're in a mixed group and the women are sharing, the men sort of settle down, get quiet, and in their brain they're thinking about Star Trek or whatever it is. They withdraw. So they look like they're interested. They have practiced that look that all men have got, which is, yes, I'm really interested in what you're saying, but actually they've withdrawn because the women are doing all the work in terms of the discussion.
It could be. It could be just a sense that they're aware that they're in the presence of experts, and wise people tend to shut up when that happens. But I have been in groups of men. I remember being at a group of men, and they were talking about empty nest syndrome. And some of the men were in tears describing the pain they'd felt as their kids went overseas or left home. I don't know whether they would have been as unguarded if there had been women present. So I can understand why people would like to sometimes arrange the dynamics of a group where it is just same gender. But whether that equates to discrimination against a gender, I tend to think it's just acknowledgement of the fact of a difference that is real and psychological and just happens.
I read Celia Lashley's book about bringing up boys, and one of the things she says is that as boys reach adolescence is a bridge into adulthood, and that's when a boy needs a man to show him over the bridge into adulthood. and it's where women should step back. But she says, unfortunately, women are not just not stepping back, but they're on the bridge directing traffic.
It's an interesting analogy. I know what she means in that, and could I just say, it's often not so much women not stepping back, it's men not stepping up. And so one of the things that is great is to see dads taking their role as dads much more seriously in recent years. They are aware that they have something to contribute to family life. And it's not just at adolescence, there's a number of stages where I think dads have an interesting role in the lives of their children. For instance, between about 4 and 6 years of age, a boy's testosterone levels double, and he becomes very conscious of his future destiny as a man, and he becomes interested in man things and the role of men. He'll still spend most of his life, I suppose, oriented towards his mum at that stage, but still aware of what a dad's like. Of course, the whole thing then, quickly the conversation turns as, well, what if there's not a dad in the home in that situation? And that's a genuine question. And it seems to be that mums raising boys on their own can raise awesome young men, entire, whole, without deficits or anything like that. And I think mums on their own can do a fantastic job. I think there is the immense benefit, though, when there can be some male role modelling there. And I don't think it has to be all that extensive or intimate for it still to be very, very useful. The opportunities for a man to come into the home with one of your brothers or an uncle, grandfather, can have a very, very valuable role in a boy's growing up. And so again, I think men, let's step forward. And if you're heading off fishing and you've got an extra life jacket, how about that boy down the road whose dad isn't on the scene as much? There could be a lot more our communities could do to just share around the positive sides of masculine influence.
It's interesting you talk about the masculinity thing, because I saw a story in the last few days about a school down in Christchurch that's reintroducing the old bull rush game, which always seemed to me like a good way of ensuring that you had some sort of fairly serious injury before you were 15. But it's a very masculine game. It involves lots of knocking each other around and so on. And there was lots of criticism saying, no, it's a dangerous sport, you shouldn't do it, these are our kids, they're going to be damaged. And the head teacher said, no, this is part of being a boy, this is part of growing up. Have we reached a stage where we're so risk averse that we're not allowed to be boys anymore?
I think sometimes we can argue with specifics when we should be talking about generalities. Personally, and my absent anterior cruciate ligament from my right knee would agree with me on this. Bull rush is a dumb game. I was tackled by some very large men playing bull rush. And so, yes, I personally would rather it was banished from the planet. But that's just my personal perspective in looking at it specific. Generally, though, children that don't learn to handle risk when they're younger may have a difficulty handling risk later on. And so it is good to have a graduated introduction to risk. And you probably get these emails that come through your inbox every so often. When I was a boy, we used to drink from the hose and ride in the back of utes and climb trees and everything like that. Yes, but I believe the death rate from accidents amongst kids was twice as high 20 years ago and 4 times as high when I was a child. And our accident rates, deaths from accidents, is still twice as high as in Australia and probably 4 times as high as England and Wales. And so you've got to say, yes, children do need adventure and risk and adventurous play, but it needs to be within the sensibilities, the mature constraints and wisdom there as well.
One of the things that's come out in the blogosphere as a result of both those stories, both the Matakana story and the bull rush story, the blogosphere has gone live with people saying this is a demonstration of the feminization of our education system. It's our schools, the boys are all taught by women teachers. It's the whole school system is geared around girls. Is that fair?
I don't know what was said in those specific comments. You can bet your boots that they were winding up on some conservative rant that I probably wouldn't agree with. Probably. But it is a fact beyond denying that the education system has many, many women teachers, and especially at primary school, far too few male teachers, and both bring an advantage. And there has been a lot of thought and probably not enough research on whether or not that actually impacts children very much. There is some, and I'm going by some ideas I heard a while back, that boys do tend to do better with male teachers, and it could come down to a simpler fact as boys don't have as good auditory processing. And when you have a man teacher with a louder voice, you know, it's just going to work better. And it might be as simple as that, and nothing particularly magical or mysterious in the mix. Boys tend to respond to male teachers well. Boys, when they're surveyed, they claim that male teachers understand them better. And it's interesting, a survey showed that both male and female teachers preferred to teach girls. And who wouldn't? Boys tend to be a bit more rambunctious and everything like that. Interesting dynamics. And I think that especially if perhaps boys don't have a good male role model at home, it's great if a boy gets the opportunity of having a male teacher in their school. When these people that say, oh, it's the feminization of education, well, what are you going to do about it? Are we going to pay male teachers more? No, but maybe we could encourage more men into teaching. That'd be a good start. And in countries, there is a way of redressing that imbalance. Countries where they just pay teachers more, both male and female teachers, have more males entering into the profession. And I think that would be a good thing.
Because, I mean, I go back to when I was at school, most of my teachers, certainly in secondary school and actually a fair number at primary school, yes, were male. But then there seemed to be a breakdown in that whole thing, and all the male teachers, maybe because of money left, which sort of left a hole, didn't it?
I think so, yes. I think back to my primary school, and the primers I had female teachers, but the standards, apart from one or two, they were male teachers. And I'm sure that that's not the result of some feminist plot to displace men. I'm sure that there's economics involved in there as well. I think teaching is an undervalued profession, and if it was valued more, then perhaps it would attract a wider range of people.
So going back to our original starting point, yes, the closure of the Band of Brothers,
I think that's regrettable. I think that I'm assuming that both this woman who made the complaint is reasonable and intelligent, and the board that made the decision is, and so maybe there are some facts that we're not aware of. On the face of it, it sounds like a daft overreaction. That's why I'm thinking that there's probably a bit more that we haven't heard, and that just a little bit more talking before the lawyers or the media were brought in could have ended up with a much better result.
John, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your
Allan.
time today.
Cheers.
Thank you. Well, that's all we've time for this week. Join us again next time, but do join our sister programme, or brother programme, I guess, if you prefer, End Zone Focus. This week we have a special programme with the newly knighted former Speaker of the House, and this is a mouthful, Dr. the Right Honourable Sir Lockwood Smith, who gives us a glimpse of the man behind the title. For now, from all of us, ka kite anō.